What's up, fellow wedding photographers and filmmakers? My name is Peyton Helm. Welcome back to the Full-Time Wedding Pro podcast. I hope you're doing well. This is going to be a really jam-packed, value-packed episode, so I'm excited. I'm going to be talking about how to invest in education as a wedding photographer and or filmmaker. I get this question so many times, and I get this question not only on my Instagram, but also in my free group, which I'm going to tell you about here in a second, and in Facebook groups. So many people are confused and they don't really know where and how to invest their money or time and or both into education. So I'm making this video hopefully to paint you guys a picture of what this looks like investing in education in the wedding industry, outside the wedding industry as well, and what you should do, determining what depending on what your constraint is in your wedding business. Will try to help you determine that constraint as well. So before we get started, first of all, yes, I did get a haircut. This is in the weird stages of it looking strange because I got it yesterday, but it'll grow out and it'll look fine probably in like a week. If you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, then you're probably like, I don't care, I just want to get into it. A few things before we get started. So number one, you guys may have seen this. I just released a free community on School. So if you guys don't know School, this is the platform that Alex Hormozi has recently endorsed. It's created by Sam Evans. It's a really, really amazing community, or a really amazing platform rather. And basically what I've done is I've been hosting my full coaching program, Full-Time Wedding Pro, on this, but I've created a free community called Wedding Pro Collective. I will link it down in the description on YouTube, but also on the podcast. And pretty much what this is it's just a free community, and also I've attached free course content to it. So as you can see, if you're watching on YouTube, like you've got people asking questions. I have 388 members in it so far. We just launched it literally 2 weeks ago. And also, in the classroom tab, I'm teaching a whole bunch of free material. So I've got a module on branding, which is branding, pricing, sales. I've got a module on paid advertising. I've got a module on social media marketing. I've got one called Fast Track Bookings, which is 7 ways to book weddings in 7 days or less. There's additional resources. I've got a paid inquiry follow-up thing. There's bonus workshops, and you can also win private coaching calls and in-person coaching with me. So a lot of really, really cool stuff. The base entry is free. I am working on adding some paid stuff in there. I'm working on potentially adding in monthly workshops. We'll see what happens. But for right now, everything in there, well, most of the things in there are free, and all of the general course information, like the modules I just told you, are all free. And obviously the community is free as well. So yeah, if you want to join it, go below. It's for, I call it Wedding Pro Collective. So it's for obviously photographers and filmmakers, but also if you're another type of wedding vendor, like a makeup artist or like a planner or venue or whatever, you can also join, because what I've seen is the branding and the pricing and the sales and marketing and all that stuff, like that stuff can carry over depending, like no matter what type of wedding vendor you are. As long as you're in the wedding industry, usually is the thing. So anyway, that's the free group. I just wanted to show you that. Also, I'm speaking on education in this video as an educator. So I feel like if you don't know what I do and you don't know the student results that I have, you might not be able to trust me. And that's actually something that we're going to talk about in the free content thing, because I think trust is important. So I wanted to show you this. This is my wins channel in Full-Time Wedding Pro, which is my high-level coaching program. And I just wanted to briefly touch on a few wins here just to give you proof that I actually know what I'm talking about here. So this was literally posted just a couple days ago. Chelsea's been, so I teach paid advertising, if you guys don't know. So paid advertising and then like branding and pricing and stuff. So Chelsea's been running ads for 3 weeks now. She's got 15 leads, inquiries, and she booked 3 weddings at $20K total. Mallory booked 2 weddings in the last 24 hours. She posted that a few days ago, $8.4 thousand. That's my own win. I just booked a destination wedding in Mexico. It's pretty fun. Hallie is just started running ads 6 days ago. She has 8 inquiries so far. She's got 2 calls booked. Hope she books those. Simon last month in June did $24,000 in weddings. Justin booked a $3,400 wedding. Candace has doubled her bookings from last year to this year, which is amazing. And then I've got another wins channel here in School, which is again the private the program where I have it hosted. Simon last month did 24,000 in weddings. Here last month did 22,000 in weddings. Elvis did 20,000 in weddings last month. Alex did 12,000 in deposits plus another 5,000, so that's $17,000 cash, not revenue, just cash. Jonathan booked a $3,600 wedding. Alex booked 4 weddings. I don't know what they were priced at. I could probably look. Totaling 18,000, which is pretty fun. Thomas has been running a message campaign. He's getting $7 leads, booked one at 4,000. A lot of amazing student results in my program. I have a really, really high student success rate. I've got data on it, which is another thing I'm going to talk about. So anyway, I just wanted to show you that, just to show that like I actually know what I'm talking about. I have proof of what I do. I'm also a wedding photographer and filmmaker. I've scaled my own business to multi six figures. So anyway, yeah, I know what I'm talking about. And I also know this is a side tangent too. I've invested tens of thousands of dollars into all of the things that you're going to learn in this video. And also I've got students who have joined pretty much every single program in the wedding industry, whether it's a course or a workshop or a coaching program or a mastermind. I've got data on it all. I've joined a lot of my own in the wedding industry and outside the industry. So I know what's taught. I know the educators that are good and I know the educators that are bad. And I'm not afraid to call them out on private calls. So anyway, yeah, I know what I'm talking about. And in this video, we're going to talk about three things. So number one is determining your business constraints. So that way you actually know what problem you have and how to solve it. I'm going to be diving into the 5 ways that you can solve it, whether it's free content, courses, workshops, coaching programs, or masterminds. And then I'm going to touch on how to find a good coach, which is probably the most important part of this entire video. So please watch all the way to the end. Also, if you want to learn more about what I do, please feel free to join Wedding Pro Collective. It's a free community. And also feel free to look at the other videos on my YouTube channel. So I'm going to get a drink of my energy drink and let's go. Okay. So number one, determining your constraint. Now, these are not the only 3 constraints that we face in the wedding industry, but these are the 3 most common and really the 3 overall constraints that we will find in, in our business as a wedding photographer or filmmaker. So the first is leads, which is getting leads to your business, obviously. Second is sales, which is converting those leads, right? So sales, that overall constraint falls into pricing, branding, obviously the actual sales, inquire, follow-up, all that stuff. Leads falls into everything marketing. So paid advertising, organic marketing, SEO, referrals, all that stuff like that. That's leads, right? Getting leads in your business is one constraint. Sales is the second constraint. And then fulfillment is the third constraint. So fulfillment would be being able to, shoot and edit all the weddings, hiring associate teams versus doing everything yourself, all that fun stuff. These are the 3 major constraints that people run into in the wedding industry. And then underneath all of these things are just, symptoms of the problem or potential problems overall. So, if you're right now, like you're not getting any inquiries, that's a leads issue, a leads constraint. If you're getting inquiries, but they're all ghosting you and you're not closing, hold on. Sorry, turning my fan off. It's starting to get cold in here. So if you're getting inquiries, but you're not closing them, that's a sales constraint. And then if you're getting a whole bunch of weddings booked, but you're not able to fulfill all of them, or you're grinding away, 12 hours a day in your office editing or whatever, that's a fulfillment issue. Okay, so those are the 3 constraints that we mostly find ourselves. And from my experience, most of you guys are dealing with either the first one or the second one or both. So, I'll probably be giving some examples in this video of different things that, courses and coaching programs are talking about. So we'll talk about that. Okay. Now that you know the problem that you need solved, now we can talk about what are the different things that you can invest in. And we're going to start with free content because this is, and also I've listed these in order of what's most popular. So let's go. Now, free content. So free content, this is what you're doing right now. You're watching a free YouTube video or you are listening to a free podcast. Maybe you're in a Facebook group, you're asking stuff on Google or ChatGPT or whatever. Basically free content is you are trying to figure out the solution to your issue and you're just trying to do it for free. Okay, that's the first thing. Now let's go pros and cons. So first pro, there's no monetary cost. There you go, very simple. That's the only pro. That is the only pro of free content. Now let's dive into the cons. And after going through these cons, you're probably going to be like, oh shit, okay, I probably need to be a whole lot more careful on the free content that I consume. Or I just need to stop consuming a lot of free content by itself and I need to probably invest. And I promise you guys, I promise you guys, I am not just making this video to try to sell you into my program. Personally, I don't care if you join my program or somebody else's. And you'll see that as I go into the course stuff, like the paid stuff, I actually talk bad about a lot of it. Because there's a lot that's bad about it, but there's also a lot that's good about it. So anyway, let's dive more into the cons of free content. I just want to help you guys as much as possible. So first con of free content, you don't know what you don't know. This is a huge thing. You might think that you have, okay, I'll give you a random example. You're getting leads, but they're not closing. You might think that's a sales issue. But it could also be a marketing issue. It could be, where are you getting your leads from? Are you getting your leads from high quality sources like paid ads or SEO or referrals? Or are you getting them from the Knot or Wedding Wire, which traditionally gives you shit leads? All you know is you're getting inquiries in, but you don't know if it's a sales issue or a marketing issue. And you don't have anybody to help you to diagnose this problem when it's free content. So you don't know what you don't know. You also don't know how to fix it. You don't know what to fix. It's a whole problem. You don't know what you don't know. It's a huge problem with free content. Second problem is trust. You don't know who to trust. Okay. There could be people in the wedding industry. There could be people outside the wedding industry. That you don't know if they've grown their own business. You don't know if they have the skill of coaching, which, by the way, it's a totally different skill to educate and coach people than it is to grow your own wedding business. So you could be watching videos from somebody who has grown their own wedding business, but they're a shit coach and they don't know how to teach. That could be a thing. You don't know if the person that's giving you the content, like this content specifically that they're telling you, if it's up to date or not. You don't know. You have nothing to go off of. You also don't know that the content they're giving you is going to translate with your own wedding business, because their ideal clients are different than yours and their business is different than yours. So what worked for them might not work for you. And unless they have data that shows that what they teach works for a whole lot of people, like I do, and like other coaches do, you don't know. You can't trust them. That's a big thing. Content fragmentation. This is also huge. So there's, when I get to the course module or course section, there is huge value in having all of the solutions to all of your potential problems in one place. But when you're watching, free YouTube videos or whatever, let's say it's on ads, like you have to go and let's say your issue is marketing. Okay, cool. You solve it. And then you have to go into all these different things. Let's say it's running ads, right? So you go to one person and, they teach you, oh, you need to boost posts and, run ads that way. And then, okay, you go boost posting or whatever, but then you start having issues. So you go to another YouTube video, or maybe you just don't even start and you go to the next video and they say, no, don't boost posts. You need to go in and set up the ads manager and you need to target all of these demographics. And then you need to run engagement giveaways. And then the next video, another person says, no, don't target. You need to do broad targeting and you don't need to do engagement giveaways. And then the next video says, you need to boost posts and do engagement giveaways. There's so much content fragmentation. Nobody is saying the same thing. How are you supposed to know what works best for you and what works best for somebody else? How are you supposed to know that the stuff is up to date? You don't know anything. That's the biggest problem with free content. Everybody is saying different things and you don't know if it's up to date, if it still works, if it works for other people, if it'll work for you. You just don't know. That's the worst part about free content. Going forward, there's no help. You have no personalized help whatsoever. It's just generic free content. Even with this, like that's a problem with me giving out free content right now. There's no personal help because on a video, I don't have the ability to go in and like help answer your specific question. Now in Wedding Pro Collective, I can. So that's an example of free content where this does happen. So free groups are amazing. That's why I've created one, because it kind of gets away from all of these cons, right? Because you can trust that it works. I've got student success rates. The content's not fragmented because I have all of it right there. And I'm giving you personalized help all for free. So anyway, but this is just like YouTube videos and stuff like that. So no help. Time and opportunity cost. This is the biggest problem with free content is the time and opportunity cost. So time, you're not spending money, but you are spending incredible amounts of time combing through free content on YouTube or podcasts or whatever, trying to figure out how to solve your very specific constraint. But even if you do get a solution, now you have the time of trial and error. You have to implement it, and you're probably not going to implement it perfectly. You're going to have problems come up. You're going to have questions come up, and nobody's going to be there to help you. All of that equates to opportunity cost. For example, a lot of my students in my program, my paid program, my coaching program, are hitting 10 to 20K months. So let's say you see that and you're like, well, I'll wait 6 months and try it myself. And then over that 6 months, you only make a couple grand a month. Okay, great. You've now spent about 60 to 100 grand in potential weddings that you could have booked, but now you didn't. You spent that money because the time happened anyway. So that's the biggest, and again, that's not just my program. That's every program out there that can help solve your issue, right? So it's either money as far as your opportunity cost or opportunity as your opportunity cost, right? Because obviously you're losing the money, but also you could have booked incredible weddings. You could have grown your portfolio, and that will compound and compound. So yeah, over 6 months, it could have been 60 grand and lost, money, but also in the future, it could have delayed you making hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's the problem with free content. Free content's great. When it's great, it's great. But when it's not great, it can really severely hurt your business. So free content it's one of those things that everybody is going to consume, and it's great, but it is not something I would really rely on. If you are really serious about growing your business, you definitely, in my professional opinion, you definitely should invest in something. It doesn't have to be me. Like, I really want to make that clear. It does not have to be me. If you have a coach that you like and you want to go to, and they meet all the stipulations I talk about in how to find a good coach, then please invest in them. It will benefit you, and it will grow your business. Okay, so that's free content, pros and cons. Way more cons than pros, as you can see. Now, courses. Okay, let's talk about courses. So these have a little bit more pros, but still a lot of cons. So, and also now I'm getting into price point. So courses, I've seen them range from $7 all the way up to $4,000. I've not really seen any more than $4,000. There might be some, but I'm not sure. And also the payment structure depends on these too, because sometimes you could do like a monthly thing. Or you could do like a one upfront payment. You could do payment plans, but in general, they're anywhere between like $7,000 and like $4,000. You could also like categorize books in on these. But anyway, let's dive into the pros and cons. So pros, they are lower priced. So these are the lowest priced paid option on this entire thing. Also, I feel like I should define this. If you don't know what a course is basically just like it's what I offer with Wedding Pro Collective, where there's like videos, but this would be obviously paid. Mine is free, but this would be paid. So like videos going in and solving very specific things, like defining your ideal client, refining your website, pricing an offer, like stuff like that. That's what a course is. So it's self-paced and self-study, and there's modules in there, usually videos, but also there could be like text and implementation stuff. Anyway, they're the lowest priced option as far as education on all of these things. And as you can see, they can get very, very, very low price. They're self-paced. That's another pro. So you're not limited on a time frame like you would be with a workshop or a mastermind or a coaching program. They're self-paced. You can take it at your own pace. You can buy a course and wait a year and then dive into it. Again, opportunity cost, but if you need some time, they are self-paced, which is pretty cool. They usually have community. So like, again, mine is a good example of that. So like if I was charging, like $97 a month or something like this, like it would be a paid version, but you'd have the course content and you have the community to ask questions in. And usually the coach is in the community, or they've got paid coaches in the community that are helping and answering questions and stuff like that. I do both. So anyway, usually has community. Pretty cool. Now, those are the pros. I guess another pro could be that the content is not fragmented like with this, and there's help and there's high trust. So like all of the cons with this, like you don't know what you don't know. Pretty much all the cons except maybe opportunity cost is within pros too for courses. So anyway, let's dive into cons. Now cons, sometimes they're pretty generic. Usually there's a lot of courses that are just like grow your wedding business, but they don't really solve a very specific issue, like just leads, just sales, just fulfillment. You know what I mean? Or even like specific problems within these three major constraints. So usually, especially with the lower priced courses, they're a whole lot more generic, which can be a problem because then you run into content fragmentation and trust and stuff like that. So if you're looking at a course, I would try to find one that is on the higher end, maybe like 2,000, 3,000 plus. That has very specific content. But at that point, you actually might be better off just spending a little bit more to invest in a coaching program, but we'll talk about that too. So anyway, the content usually is pretty generic, especially with the lower price things. Now, these are very, very, very dependent on the coach as far as the success and the outcomes from it. And the reason why is because while, yes, these courses have communities, a lot of times the communities are not very high value. They're not very engaging. And there's not coaching calls. There's not networking. Like there's none of that stuff in courses. There are communities, but a lot of times, like I said, in a lot of courses I've been in, the communities aren't that great. So it's really hard to network. It's really hard to get questions. So they're very dependent on the head coach to be there to answer questions. And this is another side tangent. Typically, again, this is typical. Typically, a lot of coaches who do courses are doing them more as a monthly, like a revenue, a passive income type deal. So they're not very involved in the course itself, which is a shame, but it kind of is what it is. And yeah, and it's not really the fault of the coach. It's the courses are designed to be self-study and self-paced. So that ultimately just is a con, and it's a trade-off of spending less money on it. So there you go. But it is very dependent on the coach because there's not a lot of community help in those, even though there are communities. There's no personalized help. So whenever there is a coach in there, there's no coaching calls. There's no, like one-on-one calls. There's no group calls. Typically, we'll talk about the fake group calls. There's no personalized help, which is another problem. Like you can get text help, but there's no, like, we can't jump on Zoom for an hour and go in at that price point. That's just a problem really with the price point. So yeah, no personalized help. This is a very interesting statistic. So this was taken by Tony Robbins, who is one of the most successful online course, people out there, coaches. Online courses typically only have a 30% completion rate, meaning 3 out of 10 people who buy the course will complete it. 7 out of 10 won't even start it. So that, and again, you can look that up. That's a verified, data point. Also, out of that, there's only a 1 to 3% success rate from students. And, it makes sense, right? Because out of the 30% who do it, about 10% of them will succeed if the course is good. That's if the course is really good. But I mean, 1 out of 3 out of 100 people who buy the course only have success. Not great results. So that's another con of courses. And again, it's up to the person ultimately. Like you have to be the person who will go through it. But that also is another problem of lower pricing, because if we only spend $100 or even only $1,000 on a course, statistically speaking, we are less likely to go through it and put our time into it because we don't value it as much because it wasn't a very large investment. And some people might disagree with me, but you can't disagree with the data. So there you go. And then lastly, fake coaching and mentorship. So this actually gets on my nerves a lot, because a lot of big educators will say, oh, I've got a $2,400 course and you get mentorship with me for 12 months, or you get coaching with me for 12 months. But what it actually looks like is they're doing like once a month or maybe even once a week, but they're like on Zoom, and then like you can only ask text questions. And like they answer them verbally, but like they don't bring you on for 20, 30 minutes a person and answer questions. They're usually like an hour-long calls. You have to submit text questions in advance. Like sometimes they will ask you questions on the call, but it's very rare. I've been to a lot of these. They're not great. It's so like if you see somebody charging $2,400, or that's usually the going price for it, and they say, oh, you'll get 12 months of mentorship with me. Just understand there's going to be 100 to 200 people on those calls. Everybody's going to be spamming text questions. It's going to be very hard to get personalized help in this. You're better off just posting in the community, really. So those are the pros and cons of courses. Overall, better than free content, but not as good as some of the things later on in this video. But if you can only afford a course, that's the best option instead of just free content. So that's courses. Now let's talk about workshops. Workshops are also very, very popular. And these are either really, really, really great or really, really, really bad, depending on the coach. So we'll talk about that. Now, price point. These are typically, the good ones at least, are anywhere from $1,000 to $10,000 plus travel. You usually have to pay travel on these if you're traveling to it, if you're not local, which is most of the time what happens. So these are a lot higher barrier to entry than courses. But again, they can be really, really, really good. So anyway, let's dive into it. Now, pros, these are in person. That's probably the biggest benefit of these is you have in-person help. Usually it's 1 or 2 days. You can talk with the head coach. You can network. It's great. In-person events are truly incredible. Like I will totally back that. I just went to Alex Hormozi event and met him and met Layla and talked to their entire team. It was so worth the investment. And it was a good investment, but it was so worth it because it was in person. It was incredible, right? So I love workshops. Again, you have to really be careful on who you go to in a workshop. But usually if they're good, they're really, really, really good. So in-person events are great. They can be extremely high quality, like I just mentioned, like extremely, extremely high quality. Like they can be one of the best investments you ever make. You can also sometimes get really good portfolio work in the wedding industry. A lot of times they'll couple it with like a retreat with like styled shoots and stuff like that. So if it's on brand for you, like if you're an elopement photographer, you probably don't want to be shooting like a very luxury high like wedding event. As long as they're on brand for you, you can get really good portfolio work too. And networking is huge here. Some of the people that I've met at workshops and programs and stuff like that, like they've completely changed my life. Like the people that I've met, not the coaches, the actual people that I've networked with. So that's a really, really solid point there too. Now, cons. Let's dive into the cons here. There's no ongoing help. Typically, there's just 1 or 2 days. And unless you pay to go back to another event, there's no ongoing help there, which is not great. Sometimes generic content. So if you go, you have to be really, really careful here. You have to make sure that you're going to a workshop that's going to specifically solve your current constraint, because sometimes these can be very like shoot focused. So like if you're a good photographer or filmmaker, then you're fine. Like you don't need to go to a shoot that's going to teach you how to shoot and how to edit. If your constraint is leads or sales or whatever, or branding or whatever, like make sure you're going to a workshop that's specifically going to teach these things. Excuse me. A good workshop host will specifically lay out what you're going to be learning before you buy. That's very important. So yeah, sometimes generic content, try to avoid that. Very high cost. These are probably one of the highest paid things you can do other than masterminds compared to how much coaching you're going to get. So keep that in mind too. Very high cost. There's also lots of bad coaches. Unfortunately, I'm trying to delete this and I'm typing in it instead. There we go. Unfortunately, workshops are very popular. Courses are very popular as well, but workshops are very popular as a money grab, a cash grab for people, and because they sell very well and you can make a whole lot of money very quickly. So a lot of people will do it just to make money, and a lot of people will do it without having a lot of experience. So if you're looking for somebody who's hosting a workshop, my best recommendation is to have hire somebody who's got experience. They've hosted several workshops. They've got a lot of amazing student results. They're showing you what you're going to learn. And also they've got contracts and protections in place just in case something gets changed or rescheduled, because workshops can change very quickly because they're very complex. So yeah, make sure you're going to somebody very reputable who's had a lot of experience doing it. So yeah, that's the main thing there. Also, if you can, I would also try to go for workshops that are nonprofit. So like I'm going to be hosting a workshop for full-time Wedding Pro members only. That's going to be not for profit. Like I'm just going to break even or might even lose money on it. So that's a big thing. Like I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with making profit from it. But also like you'll be able to tell the people who are in it for the money versus the people who aren't. So keep that in mind too. So yeah, that's workshops. And next, let's go to coaching programs. Coaching programs are my favorite. That's why I have my program structured as a coaching program. And you're going to see why I did that here in a minute. So let's talk about price. So for these are typically between $3,000 and $10,000. That's the going rate from what I see for high quality coaching programs. And a lot of times they do offer payment plans. Like I offer payment plans. So a lot of times you can get in for very, 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 like just a few $100s you can get in and get started on it. But overall, typically they're up there as far as investments. Like it's like buying a really high quality camera and lens. So anyway, here are the pros. The way that they work is I'm trying to see, there we go. So they are course and coaching for personalized help from coaches and community. Sorry guys, I am like coughing my throat out today. So the way that they work typically is like you have a course, right? But then you also have coaching calls and or one-on-one help. So you're getting personalized help, not only from the coaches, but also from the community. So you remember how I mentioned like courses are very dependent on the coach. With coaching programs, typically the people who join those are at a higher caliber because they're spending more money. Or they're at a further place in their business. So you actually get more help from the community, whether it's on coaching calls, like group calls, or it's just the community itself. So you have both help from the head coach, the coaches in the program that are underneath the head coach, and the community members too. That's probably one of my favorite parts about my coaching program is like everybody helps each other. It's really, really great. Now, these are action focused versus education focused. At least the good ones are. Mine is. So in courses, a lot of times courses are very long. Like you've got like 20, 40 videos and the videos themselves are like hours long, right? So they're very education focused. Coaching programs are typically a lot shorter courses. So like mine, I've got 3 modules, and most of the time it's only like 4 or 5 videos per module. And they're usually very short videos. Like a lot of my videos are 15, 20, 30 minutes. I only have a couple that are an hour long. And like those are the ones that like you need the full hour. You know what I mean? So like they're very, very action focused. I also have a lot of like tangible things like checklists and guides and templates and things to get you going, because I want my students to get results fast. So a lot of times coaching programs, and I've been in a lot that are very similar. So coaching programs are very action focused instead of education focused, which is a plus. Because like we want you to get results. We don't want you to just sit through a course, right? So yeah. High success rate. So I have a 100% student success rate in my program. Now that is only counting students who actually complete the course and actually show up for coaching calls and actually ask me for help. Because there will be, it's less than the 70% in courses, but there always will be people who buy and then don't go through it. Don't know why, but it is what it is. But at least as far as my program, I have the data on it. We have a 100% student success rate, which means that they are, making money. They are booking weddings from the program. As long as they are going through the course content, they're applying everything that I say to apply. And they're doing it. They're asking for help. So that's really important to have. I'll talk about that more in how to find a good coach, but that data is very important. But anyway, even in programs other than mine, coaching programs like this typically have a very high student success rate as long as the coach is good. So there you go. Now, one-on-one mentorship is typically also included in these. It depends on the price point, right? So I have a couple price points in mind. One of them includes one-on-one and one of them doesn't. So, but anyway, even in group calls, like the way that we do our group calls, like we have like, and I know I'm talking a lot about my program, but this is the example that I have, so I'm trying to give it to you. Like a lot of times in my group calls, we usually do them twice a week, and there's typically like 5 to 10 people on at a time. So like, and they'll go for 90 minutes. So we can give you a devoted 20, 30 minutes of one-on-one help on those calls. So a lot of times you'll get one-on-one help with coaching programs like this. Because of the price point, a lot of times the group calls are very small. Like most I've ever seen in a coaching program group call that's not mine was like 20 people. So usually they're very, very tight knit and very high quality as far as calls. But also a lot of times courses or coaches will give you one-on-one mentorship too. So that's pretty cool. You can literally get on calls with either them or their head coaches one-on-one for like 30 minutes or an hour each. And you get a lot of help that way, which is pretty cool. Specific content. So typically coaching programs are designed around very specific problems, like very specific constraints. For example, mine is specifically on leads and sales. And then going from that, mine is specifically on paid advertising, branding, pricing, and sales. So those 4 things mostly. I don't really touch much on fulfillment. We do sometimes on coaching calls. But like, I'm not just saying, oh, here's how to grow your wedding business and you can do all these crazy things. My program is very specifically tailored to branding for ads, pricing for ads, sales for ads, running ads. And then I do touch on organic content, but it's all specifically to help lower your ad spend. So mine is specific for paid advertising. A lot of coaching programs will be specifically for getting into the luxury industry, raising prices, sometimes shooting, right? Sometimes editing, sometimes SEO, I've seen, sometimes social media. So there's a lot of coaching programs in the industry that are very specific, and that's a big benefit over courses, which are typically a little bit more generic, but not as generic as free content. And then from there, they're better than agencies. So I see this a lot, especially in the ad game, where people will be like, oh, I need to hire an agency, or I need to list on a directory, like go to the Knot, go to Wedding Wire, or hire whatever paid advertising agency. The problem with that is a lot of times they don't work, because when it comes to our industry, like, yes, we are, wedding photographers and filmmakers ultimately, like we are offering wedding services, but there's a whole lot of separation between people who charge $1,000 for wedding photo and video versus people who charge 20 grand for just photography. Big difference in client, big difference in offer. And if you hire an agency, especially for ads, they're going to tell you to just copy and paste their engagement giveaway strategy and go for it. And unfortunately, there's a lot of coaching programs like that too. So I don't recommend hiring agencies at all. The only time I usually recommend hiring people who are doing very specific things like that are like brand designers or like SEO, like they're helping you with blog posts and stuff like that, or editing, right? But as far as like getting leads in, Not ideal, especially on the ad side, because I've never seen an agency in the wedding industry survive more than like a couple of years because they just can't get client results. So there you go. Now, let's go to cons of coaching programs because, believe it or not, they do have cons. Now, cons, they are higher cost, obviously. So these are one of the more expensive things you can purchase, not as expensive as workshops, especially compared to the fact that you get long-term coaching. But they are typically more expensive. Like you're going to have to be in a position where you can afford this or finance it. So yeah, that is a con of it. Limited time limited or retention offers. So like, for example, my base offer, so you get lifetime access to the course, but you get 4 months of group coaching calls. And I limit it because typically my students don't need more than that. But for whatever reason, if you did, that could be a con because you only get 4 months. Now, a lot of coaches do offer retention offers. So like, for example, if you join my coaching program and the 4 months go by and you want more, you can pay me monthly to get more calls. So that's a retention offer, meaning like, you can pay more to keep getting the help. So that sometimes is a solution, but unfortunately, like, if you were just buying a course, you get lifetime. In some coaching programs, they actually cut off course access. I don't, but some coaching programs, they do. So that could be a problem. So yeah, they're time limited. There are fewer bad coaches on the coaching program side, but there are still some out there. That's the last con. So yeah, just keep that in mind. I've been told by a lot of people they've been burned by coaching programs like this. I've been burned by coaching programs like this. I've spent a lot of money on bad coaching programs, and it stings, but it is what it is. So yeah, you have to do your research. I'm going to talk about that more in the last part of this video, how to find a good coach, so that you can actually avoid that. But overall, I would say like, as far as like, the amount of bad coaches, most of them are on the course side, more of them are on the workshop side, and few of them are on the coaching program side, but there are still some that aren't that great. So that's the last con to coaching programs. And typically for most people, I would recommend either a course or a coaching program for most of people out there. Obviously more so coaching program. And I know it's like, well, Peyton, obviously you have a coaching program, of course you're doing that. But you need to reverse that. The reason why I have my program structured as a coaching program is because they are proven to get the best student results. So there you go. That's why I have mine structured that way and not just a course or a workshop. Now, masterminds. Let's talk about masterminds. Some people might not know what masterminds are. So masterminds typically are, there's not all the time there's course content tied to them. Sometimes there is, but sometimes there's not. And it's typically just like weekly or monthly or even quarterly online or in-person meetings with the head coach of the mastermind and then also the people in the mastermind. So it's like coaching programs and workshops combined, but at a very, very higher level. And I'll show you that when we talk about price point. So price point for these, typically they're $10,000 to $50,000. Now, masterminds are for people who are typically already full-time. You're already over 6 figures per year. Like you're wanting to really scale to $200,000, $500,000, $1 million a year in your business or more. That's who masterminds are for. If you're not at that level, there's not a big point in joining masterminds. I have a mastermind offer in Full-Time Wedding Pro. It comes with the course, it comes with weekly mastermind calls and one-on-one mentorship. It's priced very high for a reason, right? I don't want a whole lot of people in the mastermind section. So anyway, that's masterminds. Let's dive into the pros and cons. So pros, highest value, by far highest value. And I'll talk about why. So online and in person, sometimes it depends on the mastermind. So sometimes they're just online, like mine is just online, but also they sometimes are only in person. Sometimes there's both. So I am working on doing in-person workshops, like I mentioned. But for the most part, mine is online, but there are also a lot of in-person meetings. Like Cole Gordon does like I think it's 8-Figure Boardroom. They do like quarterly in-person workshops they get access to if you pay for it. So, stuff like that. You've got in-person and or online. Very specific content. So if there is any course content, it's usually very, very, very specific to constraints that you will find yourself hitting when you're at 6 figures, scaling to 7 figures, or even 8 figures. So very specific content there. High level networking. This is probably the best part of the mastermind is you have access to people who are also spending that much money, which typically means they are at levels in the business where either you are also at or they are where you want to be, so you can network them with them, and then you can get help from them. That's a huge benefit of masterminds. The reason why it's a mastermind and not like a coaching program is because the head coach in the mastermind is usually not teaching a lot. It's usually the other people in the mastermind, whether it's a Zoom call or in person, that are helping answer questions with you. So that's the best part of a mastermind. It's truly amazing. If you can get to this level, it's one of the best things you can invest in. Now let's talk on cons. Highest cost. Obviously, it's the highest price point, but it is the highest value. So take that into consideration. Sometimes this can be the same info as cheaper programs. There is a running joke in the mastermind world that sometimes masterminds are just things that we've already heard, but we just need to be reminded on. So masterminds are not something that you need to purchase if you want to grow your business, not like a course or a coaching program. But they are very, very, very helpful when they're really good. So again, it boils back to finding a really good coach out there. And reviews are everything for masterminds and coaching programs. And that's it. That's the only cons. So I'm sure I could think of more if I put more time into it, but these are the 5 major things that you can invest either your time and or money into. Free content, courses, workshops, coaching programs, masterminds. Listen, in my professional opinion, like I mentioned, I would recommend most of you guys either do a course or a coaching program. Again, I'm a little biased. I would say coaching program, but also the data shows that coaching programs have the highest student success rate. And also they give you the most specific, like help to your specific constraint. So I recommend coaching programs. That's why I've structured a coaching program. If I was just doing a cash grab, I would just do a course. Like, I'm not going to lie to you guys. I would just do a course and I would not put any time into it. But I actually really, really care about student results. So that's why I do a coaching program and also a mastermind for the higher level. So anyway, yeah, those are the 5 things I would recommend. Free content, I don't really recommend most of you guys rely on. But yeah, those are the 5 ways you can invest in education in your business. Now, let's talk about how to find a good coach. This is probably, again, the most important part of this video, because this will, if you screw up, like if you find a bad coach, you can spend several $1,000s and also tens of thousands of dollars in missed income if you find a bad coach. So this is very, very, very important. Please pay attention. Now, number 1, how to find a good coach. They are doing what they're teaching, meaning they are actively doing, not have done, but are actively doing what they're teaching. Okay. This is huge. I am a huge believer in this. And yes, I have seen success. People have success from educators in the wedding industry who do not do weddings anymore. But those are only in very specific use cases. Okay. So for example, a good example of this would be like an SEO or blogging agency or coach or social media that is helping small business owners like wedding photographers scale their business with SEO or social media. And it's not like the stuff that they're teaching is not directly tied to the wedding side. Okay. It's things like how often you should blog, what keyword you should be looking at, what types of things to post, and so on and so forth. Not the specific content that you would focus on depending on your ideal client and stuff like that. A big thing that I see here are ads coaches. Again, I'm in the ad space, so I have data there. I see a lot of ads coaches who are not wedding photographers, and they're telling people to just run engagement giveaways. And they don't realize that those don't work for photographers and filmmakers who want to charge $5K plus for weddings. They don't run a wedding business. And a lot of them also teach like sales and pricing and stuff like that for the wedding industry and offer structure, but they're not wedding photographers. They don't know the specific things that we can offer as wedding photographers and how to make our offers better for wedding couples, engaged couples. That's an example of a coach that's not doing what they're teaching. Yes, they could be running ads and growing a coaching program, but I am here to tell you from experience, ads for a program are different than ads for the wedding business. So there you go. How to find a good coach, number 1, is they are actively doing what they're teaching. Not that they have done it before, because again, stuff changes. And if they don't actively have the test kitchen that they're doing themselves, or they have their hands in students who are like, they're actively scaling student brands, they don't know what they're talking about. So there you go. They're actively doing what they're teaching. Number 2, they have a high number of recent student wins. Recent is big. If all their student wins are from 2 years ago, not ideal. They have a high number. Okay. So a good point of reference here, like look at this. In my program, I've got 187 members. If we go to my Instagram, look at this. If we go to my Instagram, I have 2 results highlights, results and results 2. And the reason I have 2 is because I maxed out my results at 100 posts, and my results 2, I just started it, and it's already getting pretty filled up. They have a high number of recent student success rates or student results, right? So if they've got 1,000 students and they've only have a handful of, testimonials and they're not recent, not a good sign. They explain clearly what you'll be doing. I see this problem a lot come up in coaching calls, and in sales calls that I've been on for programs. And I've literally said, I'm not going to join your program unless you tell me exactly what I'm going to be doing. This is very important because a lot of coaches will, on sales calls or even sales reps, they'll be like, oh, well, you're just going to follow our 3-step system and then you're going to get results. Okay, but what's a 3-step system? What am I going to be doing? If they're scared to tell you, that means they're hiding something. They're either not confident in what they're offering, or it's not good enough to be behind a paywall and you could just do it for free. Like if, for example, if you're about to buy a social media thing, which I think is overrated and you shouldn't do that anyway, but that's beside the point. If you're buying a social media thing and they're like, okay, well, what are the 3 things that I'm going to be doing? And they're like, okay, well, you're going to be making a content, and they tell you like, oh, well, you're going to be making a content calendar and you're going to post, long form content once a week, and you're going to post short form content 5 times a week. Then you'll be like, well, okay, I'm just going to go do that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need to buy this thing. Exactly. Like, why would you buy it anyway? Right? So they should be telling you exactly what you're going to be doing. For example, in my coaching program, if you get on a sales call with me, I'll specifically tell you, okay, first we're going to define ideal client. We're going to help structure your website for ads, not just in general structuring website. I want to touch that point. I'm going to be helping you with setting up ideal price points for ad success. I'm going to be giving you follow-up scripts for ad success. I'm going to be giving you my sales call outline for ad success. Again, because leads that come from ads are a little bit different than referrals and stuff like that. And then on the ad side, I'm going to be showing you how to set up the ad campaign. I'm going to be showing you the 5 different ad strategies that we run. I'm going to be showing you how they work, what you're going to do, testing, data collection, all of that stuff. I'm going to be telling you what you're doing because I'm not afraid that you're going to go do it yourself, because I know that what I have is good enough to be behind a paywall and that you actually need my help doing it. And if it wasn't, I would just put it out here for free. There you go. Your coach, ideal coach, should be telling you exactly and clearly what you're going to be doing, and they shouldn't be hiding anything. Now, no, they shouldn't be going through and just giving you everything for free on the sales call. But if they can't tell you exactly what you're going to be doing and what they can expect from you, and they're just saying, well, you're just going to follow our 3-step system, don't worry about it, you'll learn more, red flag. Don't hire them. Bad idea. Number 4, they keep their content up to date. Ask them when the last time they updated their course was. A lot of times it's 2 years old, 3 years old. And there are some things in my course that are that old, but those are things that don't change, right? Like SEO. SEO hasn't changed. Blogging has changed a little bit, but generic SEO, like keyword research, backlinks, that hasn't changed in the last couple of years. So yeah, that video in my course is 2 years old. My ad stuff, I just made a new video a week ago. I am constantly updating things in my program, at least the things that need to be updated. So ask your ideal coach, when's the last time they updated their content? And if it's not up to date, don't hire them. They aren't cheap. This is huge, especially if you're hiring a coaching program or a workshop or a mastermind. If somebody is telling you that they're going to give you a coaching program with a full course, a community, ongoing coaching one-on-ones, and it's only $1,000, run. That means they're either brand new, they don't have the skill of coaching, or they don't have good student success rates and they're trying to undercut the competition, which is not like, listen, a coach should know this. I give you guys grace if you don't know this, but a good coach should know that if you have to undercut the market just to sell, you're not a good business owner. Now, yes, again, if that's you and you're thinking that, it's still true, but I give you grace, okay? Because you've not been told different, but a coach should know the difference. So if they're cheap, bad idea. If they're not cheap, that's a pretty good sign that's a good coach. They're growing fast. This is a big thing too. Watch the results, right? Like, look, this is July 22nd. I've got 187 members in here. In December, I had 80 members. I've added 100 members to the program in the last 6-7 months. That's fast. That's really fast growth for my price point. If it's a sign they're growing fast. That means that they have really good student success rates. They are really nailing their marketing, and there's no bad reviews. There's no negative word of mouth, because if there is negative word of mouth, that's how a program dies. They're growing fast. This is huge, like really, really big. They encourage you to search for reviews. I will tell people, hey, if you're like, at all hesitant about joining my program, look it up on Google. Ask about me in Facebook groups. Ask your friends that are in my program, because I'm probably certain you probably have friends in my program. Ask them what their results are. Ask people in Facebook groups. See what happens. I have no bad reviews anywhere online because I have high student success rates, because I actually give a shit about my student success. If your ideal coach that you're looking for doesn't encourage you to search for reviews, if you're like, hey, I'm probably going to ask about you in a Facebook group, or like, can you point me to like any reviews that you have online? And they're like, no, or like, no, you're not allowed to message any of my current students. Bad thing. I will say that I have been asked before, hey, can you get me in touch with one of your students? No, I don't do that. And the reason why is because my students are paying me a lot of money and it's not their job to sell my program. It's their job to grow the wedding business. However, if you want to message one of my students that you've seen and go for it. Like, I'm not going to tell you no, obviously. Like, get their honest opinion. But no, I'm not going to elicit one of my members to sell the program for me, because that's not their job, and that wouldn't be your job if you join my program either. So it's the same thing for other coaches. I've heard that a lot. But if they tell you, no, you're not allowed to message any of my clients, that is a blazing hot red flag. Do not hire them. And if they tell you like, no, like, don't post something in Facebook groups, don't ask. I don't know why they would do that, but they should be encouraging you to search for reviews if you need to. But a lot of times, if they've got really good student results, you really shouldn't need to. They have guarantees. So this doesn't have to be a money back guarantee. This also could be a coaching guarantee, but some type of guarantee is really important, because like, especially if it's a coaching program or a mastermind, like it's good to have guarantees, in my opinion, because it lowers the hesitation. And if your content is good, you shouldn't be having to refund anyway. So there you go. Or extend coaching or whatever. And then 9, they have student success data. So I don't really make my student success data public, but if you apply for my program and you book a call with me, we do go over it. And that's just because like, I don't want to put a lot of my students on blast. But I'm very proud of my student success data. It's very high. Like I mentioned, as far as my ideal clients and my ideal people who go through the program and they actually apply things, I have a 100% student success rate. But if you actually want to dive into the statistics, it's on like how many of my members make a return on investment within a certain time frame, how many of them hit 10K months within a certain time frame. We can dive into that on a sales call if you want to join my program. But also, if you don't want to join my program, that's fine. Again, you can go for whoever. But a good coach has student success data. Okay, they're not just going to tell you, oh yeah, a lot of my students have success. Okay, how many and what's the results? What is the statistic likelihood that if I join your program, I will have the success that you define in your program? It's a really solid question. So anyway, if you're looking at a coach, make sure that they are hitting all of these things, and not just any of them, all of them, and that they are a really, really good coach for you. Okay, so that is how to invest in education as a wedding photographer / filmmaker. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you want to learn more about me and you want to, just see more about my program, there's a link in the description to apply and book a call. Or if you want to dive more into my content, I've got a ton of videos on YouTube, also episodes on the podcast. So go watch them. I just released the scaling with paid ads video. It's really cool. And then I also have a lot of other videos. Some of my favorites are the how I scaled my 6-figure wedding business. I actually break down the coaching program there. How to start drowning a wedding inquiry is good. How to actually book with weddings with paid ads is pretty good. Anyway, yeah. So those are my videos. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Loved y'all faces. If you liked this, please subscribe and like this video, comment below. All right, I'm done. See y'all later. Bye-bye.